Welcome to the Lovecars On The Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff, Needell and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars On The Grid, your global motorsport podcast roundup. We kick off this week with some pretty tragic news, actually. The passing of absolute legend, automotive legend Ken Block, and maybe someone not quite so well known, but Sam Fenech, who was an Aussie-Australian drag race star as well. But to two lads taken far too early. Ken Block, what a tribute.
I know, having a bit of fun on a flipping snowmobile. Terrible. I mean, these things, they flipped over backwards, I think, and squidged, it's just so easy, and there's going uphill in a snowmobile that...
I don't imagine he was taking it by half. No, I would imagine knowing Ken Block.
It was full throttle. Like when he flipped over backwards, he was on full throttle, flat out. And I mean, he's such a laid back character. That's what I love when I met him and talked to him. There's some of this incredible, the hoonigan. But he was just laid back, man. And I didn't realise. He was 55. He was actually older than I thought. I think he was about 45. But and he made all his money in shoes. I didn't realise this.
DC shoes, clothing, yeah. He
started off just a skateboarder and a snowboarder. So he was a bit of a kid doing skateboards and snowboards. And then they created this company with these action sports shoes, which they sold for $87 million. They sold that shoe company to. So then he turned more to the cars and he started doing rallying, but he was 38 years old before he started rallying and doing gymkhanas. So it was quite late in life that he started moving into cars so much. And I think the gymkhanas is probably what gave him the idea. He loved the rallying. He was a Subaru factory driver in America doing rallies. And then he started those gymkhanas. I guess the gymkhanas then gave him the idea of those amazing videos that he started doing. And I like to feel I sort of started drifting on telly, about when that would be about 1992 or 93, and then the Japanese really created, the drifting competitions. That was very much a Japanese invention. They really moved drifting into competitive form, and then Ken Block just turned it into this art form, I'd call it. Just the films he created were staggering and
spectacular. I remember seeing the first one. It was just wow! Who is this? What is this?
The shot that absolutely got me alive when he went into the hangar and then drifted round and round the hangar and then shot back out the hangar, virtually taking his rear bumper off on the edge of the door. And every time I watched him, he got some places shut down, theme parks and all sorts of amazing cities, and Vegas.
Yeah.
And I always look for the practice runs, black marks.
Same.
And then hardly any, maybe once you'd see one or two, I don't know. It was just, and he had the performance, the power, and the more and more machines he built. Some incredible drift machines and weird machines.
Some electric ones latterly as well. But the ones that always get me are they're all precision ones. But when the back wheel overhangs a dock, so if you get that wrong, you're in the water. And that's just, it's a pleasure to watch you, Tiff. Really, you are extremely talented. And there's a few of you like that, Harris and a few others. But you're right. He took it to an art form. He took it to another level, really.
Absolutely wonderful. So,
and this crazy motorsport drag racing, which is just absolutely bonkers. I don't know much about Sam Fenech, I'll be honest with you, but I guess you do.
He was quite an Aussie star. He was 65 years old. I mean, it's amazing how old all these drag racers are. You see in America, they're veterans that have been doing it. There's some businessmen that got the money in business. They're I'll go drag racing, and he was in a top door slammer, top fueled, and I'm not sure how much power that had, but I mean, the top fuel drag cars, they've got like over 10,000 horsepower now. And they launched. I actually did that on Top Gear Motorsport. The only thing that's ever scared me, I was sat in a top fuel dragster and sitting there, and you have to do this, pull that, and then hit the throttle. And it just exploded. But I mean, it's terrible that he died. We had a good news. As I said, he was Sam Fenech, but it was an awful accident. And what has happened, and I've seen this in the past, he got over the rails because they fly so easily. 200 miles an hour, 250, still accelerating. If you get air under them. So he launched over the rail. And as I've seen before, he hit a bloody cameraman's tower. The cameraman was injured as well, not severely. I don't think he's in hospital, but I've seen these before where the fatalities have been when they hit these flipping camera towers And you sort of think, well, haven't they learned yet? You know, why have you got a camera tower? Because, you know, once they're past about a quarter mile, most venues don't have spectators anyway, because obviously they know the danger of them going over the rails. But it's not something I'd ever want to do. And I mean, there is a skill, isn't it? Great, the reaction time, and I think sometimes they do save the slides. But I think you're pretty much a passenger when anything goes wrong. We are a passenger, you know, and tyres blow and the engines explode, and the side of the engine in half when the superchargers blow off the top. And as I said, I did this. I learned really what you have to do, because I had a Norwegian or Swedish guy teaching me to drive this dragster for the television, and his words were, "You have to hit the throttle like you hate it." What he didn't really explain it enough. That was his instruction with me as a rookie runner. I actually did a run in a sort of half-size dragster, a proper, you know, top fuel-y looking thing, but a minute half-size, and I won the. It was not at Centre Pod, but that Shakespeare Raceway. And I did an 8.5 second run, so it was quite impressive. I'd done that and survived.
You can do 9 seconds in a Tesla. What are you talking about?
It was a dragster. Well, you can't do a quarter mile in 9 seconds in a Tesla. We probably can now.
The plaid's not far off.
Anyway,
no, I know Matt Watson
hit the
just
throttle
did.
like you hate it.
Matt Watson just did
in the McMurty.
Yeah.
So what do you mean when you hit the throttle like you hate it? Is you have to actually wedge the accelerator against the stop, because it's such a violent. So you've got to brace yourself with the throttle fully open. But I probably didn't hit the throttle like I hated it enough. But I probably only got to about 7/8 of throttle before the bloody power kicked in, and he just blew my foot back off the throttle. And then he says you're not allowed to reapply the throttle, because the engine's so high-tech and all that top fuel going in. So I couldn't reapply the throttle. So I just lurched forward for about 100 yards and then went back to the finish line. But
so did you remember the rallycross that's on our YouTube channel, if anyone wants to see it? The electric rallycross car. That accelerated in under 2 seconds to 0 to 60. Can you remember that? Was that brutal?
That was pretty amazing. I know, but no, nothing. I mean, that drags it. Just I don't know what their 0 to 60 is. It's a blink, isn't it? It must be I don't know, 1/10 of a second or something. I mean, you see those slow motion, don't you? Or freeze frames. The rear tires absolutely tortured and twisted. The car hasn't moved yet, but the wheels and then it just
catapults away. Of course, they're going to
lay
down.
Not my cup of tea.
No, but
I mean, it's amazing. If you've been to Centre Pod, if you stood near a top fuel at the start line, I mean, the earth does shake. I'm sure it's just scarily stunning to watch these things launch. But just do that every weekend of your life.
I drag race at Centre Pod, I'll give you £10. I'll put you out of your misery because you won't guess. I drag race a Rolls-Royce Ghost. It's on our YouTube actually. Wraith. But that's the only drag race I've ever done.
Rest in peace. Ken Block will be power sliding around heaven, and Sam Fenech had a great life, and he'll be drag racing up and down. So I've thought for the families, for both those men who've died, living the life, as you have to say, and
far too young, both of them. But thoughts with the families and friends.
Formula One gossip. Yes.
Yeah, it's all kicking off really with Andretti.
Where's this Andretti story again? So, the FIA, this Mohammed bin Sulayem, it's FIA versus F1. And this is what's going on all the time with rules and regulations. So
can we just clarify that F1 now is an entertainment show? It's all about entertainment, razzmatazz. It doesn't seem.
And it's the little 10 teams, little clique.
Yeah.
Ross Brawn writing what he thinks are wonderful regulations. We're all happy. We've got our cars. We've got lots of Middle East money. We're going to 4 Middle East Grand Prix with money, and we're going to American circuits with money. We don't want to go to Spa or somewhere like that because that's not going to pay us enough money. Andretti tried to get in earlier. I think he was pushed away. Someone must have said, I think maybe bin Sulayem said, well, get a manufacturer. Maybe they'll look at you with more respect. So now he's got Cadillac involved. He's saying, right, I've got Cadillac. We're not talking until 2026. This is still 3 years away at the earliest. But apparently only 2 Grand Prix teams showed us I think McLaren was one of them, sort of a little bit of interest. Well, that'd be nice, And the other sort of 8 teams have virtually poo-pooed the idea. And it's just so sad to me that, we need more cars, more drivers. Maybe 26 would be, max would be a brilliant number they used to have, or 24 at least. But and they have to pay £200 million or dollars probably to join the club. And apparently it's $20 million to each of the 10 teams. But the funny thing is they demand like compensation because you're going to reduce their share of the pot from a 10th to an 11th. But okay, so you give them 20 million for the first year. Well, the second year they won't have that compensation. It's just.
So yes. Tell me, just remind me, when you were racing, when you did a very brief, you had a very
Grand
brief
Prix career,
but why didn't you qualify for that weekend? Were there a certain amount of people that could qualify? Was it different back then?
30 cars used to turn up. I mean, that was before they had pre-qualifying. When they got like 35 cars and 8 cars used to have to go for pre-qualifying about 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, of which only the fastest 4 of 10 got into the real qualifying.
So do you think that would work in modern day if they had 30 cars and only 24
qualified? They wouldn't. They wouldn't.
But that would be awful. You imagine travelling all the way to Brazil or something and not even qualifying.
Well, that's what they love doing. I mean, the teams dreamed. The budgets weren't too high. You built your monocoque. You bought a DF3 engine because the engine was cheap. You could buy a second-hand Formula One engine, stick it in your car. But when I was there, it was 30 cars and the fastest 24 got on the grid. So, when I qualified 23rd to share the back row of the grid with Emerson Fittipaldi, one of my schoolboy heroes, I felt pretty chuffed, because there were 6 cars that hadn't even qualified. Unfortunately, when we went to Monaco, they only took the fastest 20. We had 30 cars out on the track at the same time. You look at the mess they make now, backing everybody up to get a clear run. Yeah. We had 30 cars sharing Monaco. And I actually qualified 19th in the rain on the first practice.
I was just about to say, I bet all the privateers were begging for rain, doing the rain dance every single qualifier.
I was 19th. I was about 300,000 behind. Alan Prost was 18th. I always remember that.
Amazing.
Then when it dried out, I had to move to a spare car because my main car, and then I crashed at the swimming pool trying to make this car go quicker. But I mean, I didn't qualify for Monaco Grand Prix in 1980, but it's, as I said before, I think it's a record because there was no British driver in that 1980 Grand Prix. The only time there hasn't been a British driver since about 1966 or 56, because John Watson, the only other British driver on the grid that year, he didn't qualify. Nor did Keke Rosberg. So I mean, I didn't feel too bad not qualifying for the Monaco Grand Prix.
You were in good company, weren't you?
Yeah, but. So we need more cars there, and we need more openness. But I fear the club is closing its doors, and they don't seem to care about what the public think, really.
So going back to this Andretti Cadillac story, there seems to be a bit of gossip that maybe Toto Wolff and a couple of the other big guys aren't particularly happy that they want to join the club as well. It's not just the smaller teams or the less successful teams.
No, it's the whole lot. Like I said, I think only a couple of teams have shown a bit of enthusiasm for this joining. Everybody else, they don't want anyone else joining their club.
I think it's only got to be a good thing, surely. And to have an American manufacturer like
magnificent,
Cadillac would be a very good thing.
Yeah. Also, George Russell.
I was just going to say about that. He was saying the cars are getting too heavy, which we've said for a long time as well.
Yeah. Well, it's not just for the handling. The interesting aspect is, they don't handle so well with the trucks around slow corners. But he's now pointing out as their cars get safer and safer and bigger and batteries and everything else going in them, that now that you can start a Grand Prix grid with like a 900 kilogram Grand Prix car. Whereas back in the day, I hate that word actually. Back in the day, back when I was racing,
when I was a lad,
they were 650 kilograms. And, when you can get up to that speed, like we saw with Zhao, in the beginning of the Silverstone Grand Prix, when you've got 900 kilograms, it's a lot of momentum and weight. And George is pointing out there comes a sort of dividing line where the extra weight to make it safer actually begins to make it more dangerous because you've got so much energy to dissipate, with a 900 kilogram car.
Swap them all for Caterham 420 Cups. That's it. Swap. Who needs Formula One cars? All that Caterham 420 Cup cars.
You and your Caterhams.
Everybody.
Anyway, how's your invite to the Middle East with Audi going?
Because well, I've just had the itinerary sent through.
Had a meltdown. They've had a meltdown in the desert.
Hang on, wait. But let me tell you the itinerary, and you're going to be delighted you're not coming. So bear in mind they're 3 hours in front. So there are so many. I think 5 a.m. assemble. Meet after breakfast, 5 a.m. I think there's one at 4 a.m. Oh, no.
What are they going to do? Are they going to sort of ferry you to a vantage point then? Or what's the sort of
We're
idea?
Off to different vantage points throughout the route.
Where do you fly into?
Oh, don't ask me questions like that.
I've never looked at the airport.
I'm with Elliot. Elliot, where do we fly into? Where do we fly into?
I need your itinerary. I'd be interested to know because we can look out for you on the telly.
Yeah, you can. And we're going to get an opportunity to meet the drivers and co-drivers, which would be good. So I don't.
You won't meet one of them because one of them's in hospital.
I was just going to say, I don't think we're going to meet them all. And I shouldn't laugh because not laughing at someone being in hospital, but I don't think they're going to be particularly happy after we thought they're going to be very happy. We fly into Doha. No, we fly into Doha. That's the connection in Qatar. We employ only the best people at Love.
So Elliot's getting off halfway there.
Elliot's going to go in Qatar and try and watch the World Cup.
Yeah.
And then Deman. So I don't know.
And then what? 3 hours in a Land Rover or something?
Exactly, 3 hours. It won't be a Land Rover. We'll be in an Audi. I'm sure it'll be a lovely SUV off-roader Audi, and then a couple of days of moving hotel. So yeah, it should be good.
But you wonder whether this Dakar now, when Audi was so much the favourite, which is why they're inviting all the press out for their glorious victory. But it's almost like the drivers, they're going too fast. They've got these amazing machines and the competition is so strong and the pressure is so much on them. Of course, after 3 stages, there was more controversy because Audi were given another 11 horsepower. This balance of power, Alatio, NASA said they've destroyed Dakar, they're ruining the race. Because they said, because Audi keep on wanting, more power and less weight, because there's this balance of power between the hybrids and the petrol engine conventional cars. So there's always this balance of power that rules motorsport. And the organisers said they'd sort of checked the speeds on the first 3 stages and decided that Audi deserved another 11 horsepower. But I mean, if you're going across a desert, it depends how much your driver's pressing. You're driving 100% or 90% to survive the desert. How they could actually come up with a number to suddenly give 11 horsepower more. Anyway, it's obviously too much for the Audis to handle because they all flew. I mean, 2 of them flew off the same crest, which was an incredible. Obviously, they've got the same pace notes, the same. I don't know what, but they don't have their own pace notes. You're not allowed.
Do they share pace notes?
I don't think so. You get the organisers' route map. There may be some sort of dangers marked by the organisers. But you're on a 200-mile special stage. They both flew off the same crest, not realising it had such a steep drop-off. Stefan Peter Hansel, who's co-driver, sadly had to go to hospital, which is why he had to retire the car. Edouard Boulanger hurt his back in the landing. But the violence of the landing, Peter Hansel, a driver, cannot remember. He woke up to find that the guy with the bad back, Eduardo, was already out of the car lying in the sand. So he was unconscious for must have been 2 or 3 minutes.
Wow.
Because they apparently just came down from on high and just landed flat. So they didn't land on any downhill landing.
That's super scary, isn't it? Especially when you could take so long for a medical team to get there.
Yeah. And Carlos Sainz, he crashed also, but he's landed slightly better. I think slightly more nose down, but it took a wheel off instead. But the punctures they've all been having, as we know.
Yeah, more so than normal, it seems.
We saw Sebastian Loeb, sitting there. And Loeb, whether he's happy or sad, it is the same interview, doesn't he? You don't know if he's happy or sad.
It reminds me of Kimi in a way. I like a bit of emotion.
Yeah, but Loeb was like that stage 3 when he had a 3rd puncture. They all carried 2 spares. So once you had 3 punctures, he was just waiting for the truck. Rally is finished. It's all over. Good French. That's my French. Do you get that? He's now in 4th place overall. I mean, it's incredible how you can come back, but everybody else has so much damage. I mean, okay, he's an hour and 52 minutes off the lead. But he's back to 4th place overall, whereas the Audis, obviously Peter Hans had to retire. Carlos Sainz is 101st. You keep that till Audi. Ask him why. He's 29 hours off the lead.
What question would you like me to ask Carlos?
Not a lot. He's got 18 hours of penalties because obviously I think when they get trailered in, they get penalties.
Did you see as well, just to add insult to injury, that he almost got a penalty for Carlos, his son, Junior, shut the door of his car to wish him, on your way.
Did he? Outside assistance.
Exactly. That's classed as outside assistance, but they let him off. So because Carlos Junior has been following him all the way around, which I think is lovely, by the way.
Yeah.
I love that father-son bond. I think it's phenomenal. But, yeah, just for closing the door on him, it was almost got a penalty.
But Nasser Al-Attiyah is once again a reigning champion. He just seems to know. I mean, he says he just drives flat out. In fact, I had Graham Duxbury, who listens to our podcast, a South African driver, he does podcasts himself, and he was sponsored it was a race. He won the Daytona 24-hour race in a Mark Chevy back in the early 80s.
How do you know he listens to our podcast?
Driver. He tells me because he tweeted me last week. Because, I said to you that Al-Attiyah, we were asked about how he drives, what his tactics are. He says, this flat out all the time. And apparently Janelle de Villiers, his Toyota teammate who won the event, the Toyotas come from South Africa. So they're built in South Africa, those Toyotas, the factory cars. And Janelle won the event about 10 years ago, I think, quite a long time ago now. But he was following Nasser across the desert, and they came to a sort of, double caution. And Nasser just stayed flat out. Janelle apparently saw Nasser afterwards and said, Nasser, that was a double caution. Surely you should have slowed down. And he said, Janelle, Allah will decide my fate, not you. So, thanks for the story, Dux. Graham Duxbury.
Hoya Dakman, how was it?
So the Toyotas, and they're first, second, and third now. NASA's leading. There's Toyotas, the privateers, Toyota second, the South African Henk Latigan, and the Toyota Brazilian Lucas Moraes in third, Seblo fourth. And,
what about in the other classes, Tiff? What's going on?
Well, the bikes. There's
about 8 or 10 different classes, but the main 4 classes, as we said last week, the cars, the bikes, the quad bikes, and the trucks.
The T3s and T4s are very competitive. Well, the kids, the Red Bull kids in the T3s and T4s, which are the same car. They look the same, but the T3 is made of racing bits, where the T4 is just a production machine. But no, it's the bikes, like with MotoGP and Formula One, the bikes give us all the entertainment so often. So in the bikes, right, the Americans, we've done 8 stages, 6 to go. It's a rest day today, Monday, so there's no action today on the Monday. So they're almost halfway, really, it's a rest day. But Skylar Howes from America, Husqvarna, after 8 days of 300-mile competitive, sometimes 500-mile, including the getting to and from the competitive bit, has a lead of 13 seconds.
That is insane. Isn't that crazy?
The Argentinian. Yeah, but funny enough, amazingly, there's another person in second place, because also 13 seconds off the lead is another American, Mason Klein, probably Klein. So there's 2 riders on exactly the same time after what's 8 times 300 miles, like 2,500 miles of competitive motorsport. They're tied to the same second. In fact, the top 10 are covered by 22 minutes. The top 10. So the bikes are going to continue entertaining. There's lovely stories. And every time, as I said, watch Eurosport Dakar. Unfortunately, Eurosport Dakar is now getting invaded by the flipping snooker. This happens every year. Some of my Twitter friends have pointed it out. Because if a frame isn't finished and the Dakar slot is due, they just keep watching the snooker until the flipping frame's over. So last night, the 8
Poor
o'clock
old Colton. What's his name?
Colton Kirby. We're doing his head in. So you have to record all the different slots, and hopefully one of them will actually be the Dakar and not the snooker invading. Anyway, but so many stories, as I said, you watch these guys, broken down and out of fuel and despair, and just so many stories. But I have to highlight where have I put the names? The boys. I've written on a different bit of paper.
Quads. Bikes.
No, in the cars.
Privateers.
Lovely story. The twins, the Coronels. Tom and Tim Coronel, the Dutch team. They're huge on social media, and they're twin brothers that have done the Dakar, I think, about 20 times. Tim's the most famous driver. He did Formula 3, tested Formula 1, actually. He was after the Arrows drive and lost it to Jos Verstappen. So when Jos got the Arrows drive, Tom Coronel didn't. But he's done the World Touring Cars for about the last 10 years. He was in last year's Touring Car Championship. Wonderful character. They just race everything and anything. But he had this role. They showed the onboard, and they just sit side by side, identical crash show. And all of a sudden, there's a bit of a slight switch on the steering. This is on board. And then boom, and they rolled about 3 times. You come to see sky. Anyway, the front left wheel was ripped off, but they drove into the base camp with one Coronel sitting on the opposite side rear corner to try and take some weight off, drove it in on 3 wheels, rebuilt it and restarted and got going again. And then yesterday, when they had a wheel come off, I think it sheared. They might have sheared a hub because they couldn't get the wheel nuts off. But they managed to flag down a truck, and the truck. So I think fellow competitors can help you, seems to be the rule. You know, like you said, Carlos Sainz isn't allowed to shut the door. Anyway, they got the wheel back on, and they're still going. And it's just brilliant. Stories like the Coronels.
Love it.
What makes Dakar? You know, bike riders that have saved money for 20 years to come and do the Dakar. And then you see some of them just in tears. It's too much. It's too much. I'm exhausted, and it's just a wonderful television. So
next week we'll be live from Dakar. Well, not you. I'm taking Elliot.
It'll all be over. Won't it? You'll be crying in Audi's in spilt tears.
Stranger things can happen. Toyota are only 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment, aren't they?
No, because the ProDrive, the Hunter, Loeb's in the ProDrive Hunter that's 4th. Yeah. So one British built machine is 4th, and 3 South African machines. Toyota's lead out front.
Okay, good stuff.
Good luck, because you never know what might happen. I mean, there's still got 6 stages to go. Most amazing
it's highly
event.
Unlikely. And you'll be pleased to hear the weather's not very good and that there are lots of early starts, but I'm still going to enjoy it. Anyway.
That's a surprise.
And you won't be able to get a beer.
No, you won't. But you see these motorbike boys broken down, little cameraman, and he's trying to fix it himself. And there's a blue sky. It's in the desert. They've still got their hoods up and their clothes. They keep their gloves on. You don't realize how cold
we've been advised to take gloves and a hat. That's how chilly it is.
Big anorak. Yeah, it's cold in those deserts, which is pretty confuses my brain. It should be hot.
But even there's my Attenborough bit coming out here. But even in the summer, the deserts get cool in the evening. So don't ask me why. That's as far as it goes. Anyway, so last week we spoke about women in motorsport, and we were going to get our very own friend of the show and on the TV show as well, Vicky Piria, but she's off on holiday. So I was
hoping she could come because she's driven the new Gen 3 Formula E. So we would have had an insight. That was hoping we'd get her in because it's this weekend. So as the Dakar ends, motorsport takes off with Formula E in Mexico this weekend, and of course the Dubai 24-hour race for GT3 fans, which will be probably on an internet somewhere. But no, the Formula E, it's on Eurosport Saturday night, 8 p.m. from Mexico City, the new Gen 3. So got to give it a go, Paul. Got to give it a go.
You can do research on that because I'll be in Dakar. So thankfully I'll
be bringing you a report
on that. But we are going to get somebody on in maybe a bit later on when we talk about other things. But Samantha Leeks, who's involved in composites for various race teams. So we'll get her on, but we'll get Vicky on first to talk about the actual racing. In terms of women on racing. Anyone else that wants to come on the show, please do let us know.
She went to GTs. But in Formula E, build up. You've got to build up a bit. Come
on then. Tell me all about it.
New Gen 3 cars. Very exciting.
More Gen racing, 3. Tiff? Flat out racing?
Yeah, the open wheels. You can't overtake as easily. You might get your wheels interlocked. And no rear brakes. This is this debut of these. I can't believe it.
This is so bizarre.
It's just the
regeneration.
Yeah. Regen. As I said earlier, when we looked at the new Formula E lineup, only 7 of the 22 drivers are in the same seats as they were last year. So there's been a huge merry-go-round of drivers. But the only team with the same lineup are the Jaguars of Sam Bird and Mitch Evans. So Jaguar, the only team with the same 2 drivers. Drivers out. Nick de Vries has gone to Formula One. Antonio Giovinazzi has been sacked. He's no good in Formula E or Formula One. Oliver Askew's gone back to America. And Oliver Turvey, bad time for the Oliver. Oliver lost his drive. Coming in, Britain driver Jake Hughes of McLaren, German René Rast, very famous in GT3 DTM, Nico Muller, also DTM from Switzerland, and Norman Nato, who's done Formula E before. The most drivers are from Britain, so we've got 5 Brits in the 22 cars, Sam, Jake, and then Oliver Rowland, Dan Tickton, Jake Dennis. Tyres have changed from Michelin to Hankook. Now, here's a pub quiz for you. Hankook also sponsor the 24-hour series and stuff. So they sponsor the Dubai 24 hours this week. That's the Hankook 24 hours. What does Hankook mean when translated?
Pass.
Where the tyres company comes from?
Germany.
He doesn't even know that. Oh, gosh, it's useless. It's useless. They're a Korean company. But apparently, Hankook It says in Latin. I don't know why they're using Latin. Hankook means Korea or Korean.
Does it really? Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's what the internet said, but I looked it up. So the tyres have gone from Michelin to Hankook, and the cars are more powerful and lighter, but in the testing, they actually weren't any quicker. So whether the tyres are slower or they haven't got the new cars going, there's no fan boost. Everyone's delighted to know there's no stupid vote for two drivers to get more power just when the racing's getting exciting. There's talk of 30-second pit stops to recharge the batteries, but that's not happening in Mexico. So we'll wait and see.
You're right. You're right about Hankook. I had to Google it. I didn't believe you. I just Googled it. You're right. Hankook is Korea. It literally means Korea. Korea Tire Company.
Yeah.
Wow. I thought they made in Germany. What do I know?
I just looked up to see who owned them.
Well,
you're confused. Michelin were involved with a certain percentage of them, but I don't think they are anymore.
So anybody in Formula E, if Tiff is just about to change his bio on Twitter and Instagram to become an influencer, which means now hopefully you'll.
I love Formula E.
You should be going. You should be invited to a Formula E. I'm going to Saudi
E.
Arabia where you can't drink. You got to get up early and it's freezing cold. You can go to a glamorous Formula E event, drink some tequila or beer, and late nights.
That's me.
But we just need an invite. So any PRs listening, there you go. I'm not going to give your email address. It's on his website, or put it down below. We'd love to hear from you. That's it. That's it for this week.
That's it. I'm just going to get my hair cut. I've got a hair appointment. What time is it now? Oh, yeah. Gotta go.
Enjoy. Thanks for joining us, as always. And we'll
watch Formula E. Let's give Formula E a chance.
I got to get my hair cut that time and wash it as well at the same time. So sadly,
Cheers, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye.